o'clock. We're going to call to order the July 19th meeting of the Parks, Trees, and Trails Advisory Committee. Calling that to order. Let's do a, who's present? Rick Barnett.
Cindy Kirby.
Anna Creel.
Dave Workman.
Jan Diamantine.
Doggone things.
Linda Ziedrich.
Linda's here, yeah. Okay, everybody's here. Thank you for that. Approval of minutes from the June 21st meeting. Have you had a chance to look through there? Were there any concerns with the minutes as written?
There's just one typo
Typo.
on the second page. It's Erez Gordon, E-R-E-Z, instead of Eric,
Okay, did you catch that?
under public comments.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Anything else? Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes as corrected
I make a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
and a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Nope. Okay, discussion. We'll get right into it. City of Lebanon update. Looking around to see where this is going to be Jason, or is it going to be?
I got a short update for you guys today. We had a couple tree removals, one at 213 East Grant. It was a maple tree covered in ivy, quite large. We removed that. There was no damage to the sidewalk. It was still in good shape, so no sidewalk repairs needed. Another tree removal on Mountain River Drive, 2 birch trees that started to die. So same thing, the sidewalk was starting to get impacted, but it wasn't bad enough yet that it needs any replacement or repair. So we took those out, stumps ground, everything taken care of. Update on the skate park, camera is in and functioning, and the fence will be installed. We have a little bit more fabrication that needs to be done. As soon as that's done and the powder coating is done, we'll be installing that. So hopefully in the next 3 weeks to month, we'll start the installation. So
Awesome. Thank
Valley
you.
Merchant
for
Police
that.
has been locking up the restrooms for us at night. It's working out really well. Couple hiccups in the beginning, but everything's smoothed out and it's good to go. So that's all
Were
I have.
Were the birch trees, the birch borer, were they dying from the top down?
I don't actually know
Okay,
what.
probably. Most of the birch trees in town have gotten hit.
Tim went and looked at them and they were starting to die, so I imagine that's what it is, but I'm not sure. I can find out.
No worries.
Yeah.
I was just curious. Most of them in town have died from that.
So your cameras in the skate park, are they hidden or visible, and how high?
They're on a pole actually in the parking lot of the Justice Center and they point to the skate park.
Real high?
Yeah, they're fairly high. I would say probably 14 to 16 feet up the pole. So, and it's back in the lot a little bit, but
Because we've talked about putting some up along the old mill trail because we've had a lot of vandalism.
Mhm.
But where do you put them that they can't get them? I mean, they're.
yeah,
yanked
see,
off.
these are high enough on the pole that even if it was in the parking lot, it would take somebody quite a bit of skill to climb up there. So, we've never had any cameras vandalized even that are out in public areas. So as far as I know, since I've been here, we haven't had any.
And I don't know, maybe Rod's going to give this, but we've had 3 more trees busted off on the old mill trail. And for the second time, we've had the Eagle Scout trail signs.
Yeah.
The big white and blue, pulled off. I mean, they just yanked them off and we've already replaced them once.
Yeah. So, I guess the infrastructure over there, I don't know how it would work to get a, camera on those as far as to get the data back to anything. So that's usually our biggest hurdle of getting cameras places is we have to have the data infrastructure to be able to pull the camera images back. Because if it's something where you have to go out and download it and bring it back, it's really cumbersome to try to find anything that's been damaged that way. So, but yeah, this one's up and running. It's got good view. I think it's 4 different cameras in one housing. So we're going to do a little fine tuning on the aim, but it should hopefully cut down on a lot of that stuff.
So then those are wireless Wi-Fi that tied into
So these ones are tied into the camera system that's on the Justice Center.
Hmm.
So it was one on another pole, and we just pulled wire between the two. And so it actually feeds right into dispatch, so dispatch can see it real time, so, yeah.
So
I have a question.
Yeah.
Are the trees removed by the city going to be replaced?
I believe so, but that is up to the homeowners, the property owners to do the replacing, so. The ones on, Mountain River, I believe are gonna be replaced, but not in the park strip because there's utilities directly underneath. And we don't like to see it with trees right on top of utilities, gas lines or water lines. I believe the gas runs right down that park strip, so it's kind of cumbersome to have trees planted right on top of the gas line if they ever have to do any repairs or anything.
Jason, I was wondering if you'd give us an update on the seasonal trail maintenance worker?
So we went out for, HR put it out. We got some applicants, but it's been a tough time finding temps to come work for us. So it seems like one thing or another, either they don't have the, necessary skills that we're looking for, or once we tell them what the job's about, they politely decline.
They no longer have the skill.
Yeah, so we even put out for a couple temp positions just in maintenance, doing general maintenance, and we haven't hired anybody as of yet. So we have some temp employees that we got through kind of word of mouth. Two were from last year that we hired, 2 high school kids. So they came back this year, and then the third is a personal friend of one of our other, a kid, one of personal friends' kids of another guy at maintenance, but we haven't hired anybody outside of those 3 that we knew.
How old do they have to be?
16 is our minimum age.
And while we're talking to you, I just wanted to thank you guys for mowing out at Cheetah Lake and,
Yeah, we've
you know, it
been,
really makes a difference and.
yeah, we've been trying to keep up on the mowing. As you guys know, the weather was perfect for everything to grow this year, so we got kind of behind, but we've been trying to keep up as best we can and try to get ahead of the curve. So, thank you.
Yeah, and also having, I don't know what it's called, from the water treatment plant going into Cheadle really has made a difference at the north end.
Yeah, so we could turn that back on and put more boards in after Albany was done with their canal
Yeah.
assessment, so. Yeah. Anything else?
Thank you.
Yep.
Very
thank you, guys.
good. Good
One
report.
other update for city business, we're reviewing final plans for the east side or the south side trail that the grant that we got, and developing a cost estimate for it. So hope to put that out this fall for construction. So we're finalizing that. Yes, that's the one at Cheetah Lake.
Do you think you'll make this construction season with it?
There's still some things up in the air. So I hope to, but we'll just see what staff I have available to do it. So
Okay, perfect.
that's where we're at with it.
Thank you. I appreciate all that you guys are getting done. That's great. Planning case S2204, and I believe that Rod is going to talk about that to start with, and then we'll fill in some other questions.
Sure, I'm actually, for a lot of the presentation from Build Lebanon Trails today, a Trails representative, is going to be based on the master plans that you should all have now. And so I'm actually going to go through there and start out with some pages in the book. And so what we're looking at is here a while back, the Build Lebanon Trails representative asked to be included with the information that goes out with the Planning Commission. And what that has brought forward is an opportunity to look at the proposed developments to see if any of those were not that the developments were identified, but that the properties were identified in the master plan. So the case that's currently out there is, I'm going to go right to the back. I wasn't going to do that, but I'm going to now. Right to the back of your Trails master plan. And we go back till there's about this much left in your book. These aren't numbered back here. And it, see now if I can find my spot so I can guide you to it. It's trail number 10. And this actually is on page 73 where the description is. And then I know it's kind of hard to find, but
I think it's on this attachment.
I have, there's a packet.
okay, that might be
Yeah,
it.
Might
it's
be
in
easier to get.
in the packet, the agenda
Okay.
packet.
Planning case, and then all of the noted trail segments from the.
Oh, thank you.
Fancy.
Wow, that's perfect, thank you. Hey, this is even better because now you get to see the proposal in the front. And then if you look at the aerial photograph and on the back page, the number 10 aerial photograph, those areas match. So there's this one planning action that's being requested, but there was also another one on the property. You can see a tree line at the top part of the picture. And so what the red line identifies is a trail that's it's in the Parks Master Plan also, but also in the Trails Master Plan. Back since 2006, when the Parks Master Plan was established, it identified this as a trail. And what I don't know is what planning or what engineering and city staff have recommended for happening at this site. So it's kind of looking for an update on that.
In specific, which site are you talking about?
Well,
So
it's-
Trail 10 is somewhat different than the connection to Christopher Columbus Park there.
Yeah,
That would happen, the property that's to the north, if you're looking at Trail 10 there, to the north of the red line. I believe that was just an annexation that happened, or MLP, I can't remember which. So there was no real engineering action on that
Good.
one. So until such time we receive a proposal, we wouldn't condition that trail. So there's no conditioning of that trail.
understand.
Property to the south of that, which is what we're reviewing tonight at the Lebanon Planning Commission, is for the subdivision that's attached. There was no trail conditioned with that property based on the fact that they're utilizing a majority of the property for housing. And the rest of it is so encumbered with wetlands, floodplain, and riparian zone, it would have been almost impossible to get a trail down through there. So that's why that was not done that way.
So I understand that, but there's a couple of things. One is on the Trails Master Plan, it doesn't show it going through the wetlands, the proposed trail. And I know that I'd sent you an email and said, well, it'd be much better if it wasn't out on a road, if it would be along
Sure.
the greenway, such as down by Joy Street. There's a part of the same creek that they did build along it, and only they utilized the creek as a feature. And it also, I'm sure, would have been a wetland at the time of that development. And the bigger picture that I wanted to present is in the trails map. So if you'll, and I think the easiest trails map. No, that's the proposed map. The map I wanted to show you is actually in the master plans. It's in the Parks Master Plan on page 7-1, can't read it, 19. So there's a overall focus, I think, that I'll try to get to with the other discussions, and this one is the need for an updated Parks and Trails Master Plan, because we're starting to miss some opportunities, I think, to build the trails. So if you can see this page here.
That's also in the packet that you guys have.
This one is? Oh, man, Sierra, great job. Anyway, if you look at that, you can see that there's a trail that's proposed to go all the way around the west side of town. This is one small piece, these proposals, the planning action is one small piece of that trail. And if it was important back in 2009 and 2006 for the community said, we want this trail, I think it's still important today. And so by not having a planning action requirement to help fulfill that plan, I think we're missing the opportunity to eventually have a trail on the west side of town from the north to the south. There's already pieces of it developed. Another big thing that's happened is used to be a proposal in the City of Lebanon Transportation Plan that had a bypass or a byway, can't remember the exact name of it. And it was eliminated from the transportation system plan. Well, that was going to be the location of this trail that was going to connect our community on the west side from north to south. And now that's gone. So without that kind of planning, we're not going to ever be able to have the trails that the community, I think, has already agreed that are important. So that's my spiel on the need for a requirement for a trail in that area. And if we don't start asking when they start development, it'll never happen for the full thing.
So do I understand what you're asking for you're saying that it's time for an update of the plans so that you can more closely tie that as development happens? Is that, and I don't know when the last update was. You said something about 2008 or 2009, right?
2006, the Parks Master Plan was updated. In 2009, the Trails Master Plan was created. So there's been no updates since then.
And we did talk about, at some point, there's a Parks Master Plan update. We've talked about it. I don't remember where we were on that. Do you know?
So that we were going to do that internally, but timing has not allowed it. The reason we were going to do it internally is there's really no funding mechanism for a Parks Master Plan. It all comes, there's so much competition in the general fund, and that's where it would come from. So that is, I'm not sure where Jason's got that at on his radar as far as a Parks Master Plan, but that's something that we can look at. The problem you've got is the competing funds, and how do you make that work? How do you take $200,000 out of the general fund to update the Parks Master Plan? That's the question of the hour. Once we can figure that out, why, we'll probably be in pretty good shape. But until that point, it would be a heavy lift for staff to try and do something like that. We looked at it when we had the rare intern, and the amount of staff time that we were going to have to put into it, because it's going to take people with knowledge of the system and how to do it. I mean, he can write the little stuff, but it's the public input that's going to take the time and vetting this stuff out, especially if we update the trails and put the trails to it as well.
Is that number, that $200,000, that
I'm taking a shot in the
Actually, I
dark.
think he's pretty close.
For an
I
outside-
just went through one of those and it was that's about what it was. Yeah, about $200,000.
That's a guess, but yeah,
that
I
would
mean,
combine
that's,
both?
I don't know if it combined both or not. We have a pretty extensive trails master plan. The trails, parks would probably be more involved than trails would be. Trails is kind of, well, we want one here, there, that type of stuff. Some of these trails that Rod was pointing out, like on the south end with this planning case that they're talking about here, there are alternative ways in that area down in there. With that being the floodplain and knowing how much flooding we actually receive on that, we're going to have to find some alternatives, and there are going to be some on-street stuff that we're just not going to be able to do anything different with. In fact, the streets down there flood, so we're going to have to be cognizant of that, and it is time to do an update. The question is just how do we get there? And probably one of the first steps would be for this committee to recommend to the city council that a master plan update be done so that they can make it a priority of theirs. We as staff can come back and say that is a priority, but like I said, there's so much competing interest in the general fund. It's really hard to get that across the finish line. I guess is
Sure.
the best way to
And
say it.
I think it's starting the conversation, and that
Yeah.
was the point. We're not going to get there if we don't start, and at some point. And the Trails Master Plan was partially funded by Build Lebanon Trails, the creation of it. It was a 2-year program, and by the Ford Family Foundation back in 2008, 2009. I hired Mark Swenson and brought him on board. It worked directly with city staff and with the Parks Committee, and he developed the plan. So Build Lebanon Trails could also help again by writing grants. I can't commit BLT funds without the board's approval, but definitely we could help try to raise some funds towards that aim.
I think that's viable.
I don't mind helping you get that on the city council's radar, but Ron's right, we have, it's a tough amount of money to get at this point.
Yeah.
So,
Right, yeah,
But-
and I think it's something you could plan for in the future. Got to get into a budget to even, it got to be in the conversation.
Yep.
And there'll be other examples as we go through the rest of the items that I have to cover. So I must admit, I think not taking advantage of development opportunity where you could at least say we need a trail right away through this area, or have a plan to say this roadside sidewalk, like along Reeves Parkway or along Hansard Avenue, I guess it would be, is going to be wider to accommodate a future trail connection. What we're looking at is there's no connection to the rest of the park system from this area, and this area is an expanding, growing area. And, we can talk about health effects or the benefits of having trails within close proximity to the neighborhoods. And there's all kinds of studies that cover that, but it really is important for the physical and the mental health of our community, and our children to be able to accommodate that. So I see this in this map, there's a little spot there, one connection to Christopher Columbus Park. And without that connection, we'll never be able to ride our bikes from there over to the Cheetah Lake, for instance.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that one is on our radar. Can you give me some examples of other planning cases? I'm trying to think here where we haven't captured right away.
Where we haven't captured?
Yeah,
Well,
we're,
through one of the reviews that I failed to get in there early because I wasn't on the planning commission mailing list yet, was the review of hooking the Burkhart Creek Trail from the airport Stoats Hill area into 7th Street. Now, staff's looked at that since then, but it was late in the process. And it's those kind of pictures when we have a trail system, we have an opportunity to hook directly into another existing trail that I think that's one that we've missed.
so 7, run that by me one more time, 7.
So Applegate
Yeah,
subdivision, and Burkhart Creek was a section in there,
which we have the right of way for that. We had right of way dedicated for that.
right through the property where Burkhart Creek is. And the other piece of that is, it's almost difficult to discuss now, but so what the right of way that's been set aside now is right along the fence line.
Yeah.
It's a straight corridor, the kind of thing you don't want to build for a trail because people put fences up on both sides and not a safe environment or a friendly environment.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see in our master plan to be able to kind of detail the importance of running along the greenways. And
So that one won't have fences there. That one, the one that you're talking about there won't be any fences allowed in that specific area, basically because the properties go through the creek. So there won't be fences that come along that side.
even on existing properties on the east side of that corridor?
Well, the east side, yes, obviously, they're there as they exist today. The problem with getting down in towards the creek there, again, you run into riparian wetland stuff that not real sure how we build a trail down in that area when we deal with flooding and overflow. So
Yeah.
it's
I just
kind
know
of
it happens elsewhere, and it's happened elsewhere in our own community. We've done it.
Yeah.
And so I think it's possible. Difficult at times, expensive at times, yes.
yes.
And that's a barrier. Okay.
Okay.
So I think probably taking that information and maybe crafting something to the city council to say, hey, we know budgets are difficult. And, but like Rod says, you lose those opportunities. So if funding becomes available, a master plan for both the parks and the trails, an update is in, it's due. So,
Just because I'm never afraid to ask the dumb question, the opportunities you miss are just because the land develops around it and you
Yeah.
can't build the trails anymore? Is that kind of the nutshell of that?
So what happens is, right, they develop the land and there's a line that you have to try to connect two trail systems. And the land in between gets developed, and how do you do it?
I just want to make sure I wasn't missing the detail there.
and even if it's on, if it's on a plan somewhere, at least the developer has the opportunity to look at it and say, hey, yeah, I can be supportive of that, or, what have you. So
Gotcha.
it's hard to tell them what they're going to do with their property, but it is a tool it's helpful. Somebody want to take a shot at something, or do we just want to kind of leave that as a general? We should probably make a motion for the city council to look at. Somebody feeling brave, want to take a shot at it?
So we're talking about a motion for Parks Master Plan and Trails Master Plan updates? Is that where
Yes.
we?
That's what to consider that as they consider all of the others. I have trouble with that.
I think we've all done that.
It knows right off that.
As they consider other, knowing if you don't ask, you'll never get there. Even though you ask, you may not get there, but.
Get it
it's
on the
probably-
agenda in front of us and we'll prioritize it as best we can. And I'll advocate, that's what my job is, but let's use that heavy lift thing, but budget-wise, it's a tricky one right now.
So something like this committee recommends that as funds are available, that the city council looks at an update of the parks and trails master plans.
So I'll
Something like that.
I'll make a jab at it here.
Take a.
So
jab at it.
I make a motion that city council, city council review I'll take that back. I'll make a motion that the Parks, Trees and Trails Committee recommend to city council that the Trails Master Plan needs to be revised, and if as funding is available, that they consider the need.
Yeah, you said trails.
And trails.
I think did you say both?
Parks, Trees and Trails Committee.
But we want both master plans.
Yes.
Well, I think it should be separate from after kind of what Ron had said, because one's going to be a lot less expensive and a lot easier and probably a better fit for a rare intern because he's already got a wonderful document to go off of. But if we throw the parks in there in the same motion, then I don't think they're separate. That's why I didn't put them in there. We can make another motion for parks or combine them.
I would suggest combining. I don't think that they are separate things, but they're related. And if you have the opportunity to do the one, they do the one.
So amended, motion amended to add the Parks Master Plan.
Thoughts? Any way you could say that again, or can you say what he said?
So. So, are you wanting to keep it separate though, or are we wanting to have one motion?
One motion with that would be a move for the Parks, Trees and Trails Committee to make a recommendation to City Council to consider the need for updating the Parks Master Plan and the Trails Master Plan as funding becomes available.
Like that. Conversation, discussion,
I would second that motion.
a second. You're ahead of me, Cindy.
I am.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
So Rod and I met with some younger guy that was working on what happened to his progress?
I don't know. I'd love to tell you, but I don't know. I'll have to dig into that for you. I know, I don't think he got very far.
And I think there's several things that happened during when his intern time here. For one, the Cheetah Lake all started happening, and $2.3 million. And so I think, from my understanding from inquiring, he got pulled off to work on current projects that were the highest importance, knowing that he was never going to get the master plan done. And so he was helping out as much as he could with other smaller parks projects like the Cheetah Lake.
And it's incredibly cumbersome to do a master plan. It's incredibly cumbersome because there's a lot of public input. There's a lot, it takes a lot of time. So I can see where that makes perfect sense.
And so the Parks Committee actually was very much part of both of these plans. And in this forum, we sat in here and listened to the public comment and went all the way through. So it's definitely an intensive piece of work for this committee and should be.
Right.
So I would suggest that this committee, whoever, bring this to the city council when you do an update, and this recommendation be included in when you do that update to, when was the last time we did an update to the city council? Do we know?
Been a while.
It's been a while. So it's
Yeah.
probably something we should get on the agenda as a presentation update from Parks, Trees and Trails Committee on how things are going. And that would be an opportune time to have that recommendation put forth for them so that it can be discussed at that point. Does that
We-
make sense?
Thinking the fall is probably a good time to do that, or when is the best time? They're past the budget stuff.
Yeah, it would.
Summers are
yeah.
tough.
I would say fall. So Sierra, remind me, and we'll try and get something in on a council agenda October-ish and have like you come and do a presentation to them on the committee's work.
Okay. Yeah, we did that once, but it's been a little while, and the council has changed quite a bit since
Yes,
then,
it
too.
would be good to inform them, not just on that, but everything else that's going on.
Okay. Thank you, Rod. I think we're in a little better place on that one. Cheetah Lake project. Who's jumping in on that?
Cheetah Lake project. So I was not here at the last Trees and Trails meeting. I think, were presented an overall conceptual plan of what is being proposed at the park. Cindy, I believe you had some questions. I had Sierra get the conceptual plan and then also what the conceptual plan was based from, which was 2000 and,
2008 or.
yeah, it's been a while, 2007, it looks like, was when this was developed, the overall master plan for the park. So,
Do with it. I had it a minute ago.
I saw it there in the packet. Yeah.
I thought I'd bring that back and
Yeah, it's right here.
ask you to
Okay,
throw your questions at us.
okay. Well, I don't know if it's questions as much as comments, but.
Okay.
Okay, so I've been looking at this and talking to some, like the new Strawberry Festival chair and some other things. And the concern I have is twofold. One is, as we look at the parks that we have in town and the community parks and the regional parks, et cetera, what is the best use of this space far as financially and as far as community-wise of what they will use this park for? And I'm not sure that we've really kind of dived into covering what truly is the best use of this park. I know originally it was purchased for the Strawberry Festival and to be an event venue type park. And throughout the planning, I mean, in the old plan and the new plan, there's also a sport park part of it that's being developed. But my concern is there truly a good crossover with that? And if so, how do we make it really work for both things? And the other part of that is financially, the upkeep of a venue park versus a sports park, et cetera. How do we juggle that, knowing the financial state of, for the city, what the financial state would be? So I feel like we have an obligation as this committee to really look at that and figure out what truly is the best use of this land and make sure that we're doing what's best for the community and for the city as a whole. And making sure that what was in the plan from 2006 is truly what's best now, looking forward what are we, almost 20 years for this park. It makes me feel really old. So, and in the original plan, the Bauer property was not part of that, which is the property to the east. And in the new plan that is up there, we haven't really considered what to use, there's nothing, no use of that kind of corner property except for the trail that goes around the outside. So I'm curious about if we moved the far west baseball diamond to that space. It does fit, I tried. That would give the event venue part of the park a better hold on what it has and make better use of the space in the park. So just some ideas I thought we should maybe discuss.
Well, let me start with the time frame on spending this grant allows you to do that. We don't have a specific time frame where it has to be spent. So if this committee, well, I think it's 2034 if we don't have it done by then. I'll be retired, so who cares, right?
Won't matter.
Absolutely. I think there is room for this committee to make different recommendations on the conceptual. Is this what you want to see? And my idea is that whatever comes out of this committee for this gets recommended to the city council before we take off on final design. And I say we, it'll be Udell Engineering, because it is a multi-million-dollar project.
Yep.
And it should be discussed and it should be thought through. What you see here now was just, hey, let's get the discussion started. And that's why we didn't take off on final design. The first phase of this will not impact the design, which we're starting on August 1st, which is getting water, domestic water all the way out there, extending the sewer. So all of our utilities will be extended to that area. So it makes no impact on what we decide in this committee. And very little of that grant is being spent on that project, just a little bit. So you have the ability to talk that through. Several ways you can do that. We could bring Udell Engineering in, Brian Vendetta, and ask him to, give him some ideas. I can also take those back to him, conceptuals, and we can draw on paper for a while until we get what we want. But those are really good questions. How we're putting a lot of stuff into a little area, and
Well, and trying to figure out how we make the best use of that space.
Absolutely.
And the reality is that maybe the elephant in the room is once you put water and sewer out to the park, that property that half of this old design is determined on is going to become a lot more valuable.
it most certainly is.
And so the chances that that's really going to be part of the park become slimmer. I mean, so it's just trying to figure out exactly what is, and we had the presentation at the last meeting about the pickleball group they were looking for some place to have pickleball courts, and they were trying to figure that out. And then you kind of go back and you look at the amount of people that are playing baseball now and the amount of people that are playing pickleball now. Baseball's dying and pickleball's picking up. So we need to make sure that for the community, we're putting in this park what's best for the community and they're really going to use. And I'm not saying that's not baseball fields, but I'm saying that we need to have the conversation and we need to figure that out.
Because I'm always the slow guy in this, I guess. But can you elaborate on what as we get sewer out there, we're going to lose part of this property?
We're not going to lose it, but the property to the west is privately owned now and it doesn't have as much value as it will when there's sewer and water to
I
it.
understand. And what you're talking about when you're talking about this baseball diamond up into this kind of a corner? Is that what you're
No,
talking about?
it's up here in this corner. So the park has included this
Oh,
that
I got
wasn't in this plan. So that plan was, so if you look at the old color one, it's not in that plan. But right now, in this plan, it's not being used. It's just an empty field. But this baseball diamond will fit in that field.
I got you.
I tried.
And Ron, really the
Um,
kind of what to work around here is there's some fixed points, like the concession stand in the middle that would take
Right.
away from the amphitheater or the flat ground to have a show on.
Right.
So that's, even after we get this first pay, that kind of piece could be moved someplace else?
So we could you can literally, and I put it all on the screen and figured it out. The two to the east could flip 180 degrees so that the main dugouts and everything were on the other side. And then that third one will fit in that other area. And that opens up the entire field in front of the stage where there's nothing, including the batting cages will also fit over there. So that would literally, that would make it so you could have your sports park on one side and your concert or your festival venue on the other and still be able to work around the two. My concern is when you have a baseball field where you're going to have concert people. So say you put up the fences and you have your dugout and you have the baseball field. So you have a concert and there's God forbid, a mass shooting. Then you have an opportunity for a whole bunch of people to get trapped against a fence in a dugout and they can't get out. So it creates not only a safety issue, but it creates and then plus you have all those people on a baseball field that could ruin the grass, and then you have upkeep and all those things.
Ron, just from my head to be clear, when does a decision like that have to be made? Does the first stage of this is going to go on, and that doesn't really affect any of this from what you said, right?
No, no.
So are we 6 months from having to make a decision on that, a year?
Depends on when you want to do the project. So the conceptual, once we have a full conceptual, everybody agrees to, then we will start the actual engineering design drawings. So you've got time.
I got you.
There's no giant rush.
Because it sounds like we're just moving pieces around. Those are great ideas. I think that we would want to use that space with the stage as best we can. We want as Lebanon, I want the biggest venue that we can to bring as much dollars into that park as we can get. Not
Well,
to be a money guy, but
Exactly. We want to be able to utilize it the best we can. And the other part of that is, can you kind of refresh me and the group? The grant had some specific things in it, like ADA was one of them. Was there other things that we need to be considering that it was specifically outlined in that grant that we had to use it for?
So probably one of the vaguest grant applications I've ever seen. It's called Cheetah Lake Accessibility Improvements Project, and that's it.
Okay.
So yes, there needs to be accessibility done for it, right? So we need to provide ADA parking, probably an ADA restroom or two. You need to provide ADA paths and whatnot. So all the rest, that's the primary focus of the grant. So,
Yeah.
but keep in mind, we're also attaching a fairly large sum of parks SDCs to this because it's an eligible expense, which makes the project, we're at over double what the grant is right now.
Okay.
But the other thing to keep in mind, we haven't done a cost estimate on this.
Right.
So we don't want to get too elaborate at this point. I think this is a starting point. This does not have to be final product. It can completely change. I think this committee needs to decide, is this what needs to happen there? And do you want to make some changes and get us those changes? We'll step in and tell you if there's an issue with one of the changes that you're talking about making, but short of that, the field's pretty wide open
Okay.
for this.
the same size ballparks as down about Smith?
No, these would be, I believe these would be full size. They'd be set up to where you could play softball and
They've done a need for
baseball.
that, but we need three. Somebody's done an.
I have
need
no,
accessible.
not to my knowledge.
There is, yeah, I don't know about softball because softball seems to be rough.
Yeah.
Baseball's still going.
Yeah.
There is a lot of advantages to building 3/2 with tournaments and that sort of thing. But
Again,
as someone that manages fields that aren't this nice, we're seeing less and less of that. So I think it's a good opportunity to maybe bring the consultant in, bring Brian in and say, think about ideas you have, maybe let us know a meeting ahead of time. We can play with it a little bit in the meeting and then along. Because like what Cindy says, I think, yeah, there's some things, if you want to have 3 softball fields, there's some things you could do. We've got soccer fields already out there, but what else is up and coming? And is softball one of those? I don't know.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is maybe there's some other things we need to be thinking about, like, for example, the pickleball. that, and I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
So-
I don't know who you ask or how you get that information of what's really people are doing and what really the needs are.
When you have to forecast 20 years ahead too.
Right, exactly.
because, yeah, 20
Exactly.
years from now, things might be really different. So you want to be flexible. You want to be those kind of things. So I guess I would suggest that we, maybe in our next meeting or the meeting after, we spend a little time between then and now and then as individuals looking at it. Then maybe at some point talk about it, and then maybe we invite Brian in to give him some thoughts on it, or get some there. And then you got to go at public input at some point, and you're certainly going to get certain public input. You're going to get softball and baseball folks that are going to say, oh yeah, we need 8 of these. You're going to get event people that say, oh, I need all the space I can get. You're going to get pickleball people that say, we want the biggest pickleball facility in the Northwest. So you have to balance all
Well,
that.
and
And
I
who
think-
knows what else there is.
I think we have to balance that also with what the need is for, if we're looking for bring in tourism, if we're looking to
Right.
bring
What
in.
are you trying to do with it?
Yeah, because that impacts, I mean, an event venue that is running every couple weeks a month brings in a lot of tourism to a town. So do we outweigh that with what our community needs are and figure that out as well?
Yeah, and again, this was just based on, I think it's in.
Yeah, it's the
Sarah, do you have that
2000,
other-
it's here in our
Oh,
packet. this
Okay,
one,
so
yeah.
it's in, you guys have seen that. So that's what that's based on. Rather than us dream up something different, we
Right.
just went with that. And that's why we've called this a conceptual. That's why we didn't turn anybody loose on a full-blown design. Why don't I have that?
There's no bulldozers out there building baseball fields, right?
Not
It's
today.
it's in the
not-
blue, it's in the one that has
Is
this
it
on
in
the
the blue
front.
one? Why can't I find it?
Can I just put it out there? Yesterday, we had an inquiry from an event organizer about a possible music festival. They were inquiring about the grounds. They said it'd be up to 5,000 people camping on site. They also inquired at the fire department on what their requirements would be. So I don't know how serious they are, if they're just feeling the waters, but that just came in yesterday, so.
And that's the other piece of that is it better to have 2 baseball fields and make that property to the west camping, RV, that brings in income all the time? Do we need another RV park in Lebanon?
So
The parks people would say.
Lebanon doesn't want to own another one.
I'm just
No.
saying.
Do we need one or do we want one?
Well,
Right,
it's-
exactly.
Two different things, right? Yeah.
different things.
Exactly. But if you have a venue and you have a big park that's having events, even if they're having baseball games, if they're having concerts and events like that person, they want camping. And there's a lot of events that happen now, even at Cheeto Lake, that want camping, or they do dry camping. They do like the Civil War camps out there. You know, there's several groups that already use that park that want camping spots.
So is it fair? I'm trying to bring this all in to tie this in a little bit. Is it fair for us to put on our agenda next time to discuss, to look at this seriously? Because I haven't really looked at it seriously, and most of the others probably haven't. Look at this seriously with the thought of bringing, once we have some more ideas, bringing in the designer, if it's some conceptual stuff, and then it's got to go to a public, at some point, it's got to go to a public
Yeah, I would agree.
input.
I would agree.
And
It's-
lots of it, and you'll get lots. And it's a wonderful, I mean, if we look at it as, this is a great thing that Lebanon's got. Most communities don't get that. How do we best use it as a community? You know, maybe giant quilt festival, who knows? Yeah,
Just a,
I know someone who'd like that.
I do too.
Well, this committee has got the ability to wipe the slate clean.
Mhm.
Just because this isn't truly a master plan. This was
Right.
a conceptual master plan done in the day. I guess you need to throw ideas at it. I'm not sure. I want to think about, I don't know if Udell Engineering is the best one to bring in. They're not going to be able to do this that you see, right?
Right.
So you're not going to get the pretty conceptual picture. You're going to get the engineered type
Black and white.
straight line, right? And that's an option. I mean, we can always use Parks SDCs to part of this project to bring in somebody that could work with this committee Especially if we're thinking it needs to go to the public for comment, you're probably going to want some high-level conceptual drawings as opposed to black and white.
Technical, yeah.
So those are the things that really need to be thought through for us for direction. The other thing I would say be very cognizant of when you're coming up with conceptual ideas, we can come up with all the wow neats, but again, this comes back to maintaining, I think fiscal responsibilities on here. Again, the maintenance for this comes out of the general fund. Is it self-sustaining?
Mhm.
Nobody's done a study to see if it is self-sustaining, so I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. So those are things to think about as you're going through that. But there is no per se time frame, other than I don't really like doing the yearly reporting on the grants, but I can get over that. So.
Which is wonderful, because a lot of times there's a tight time frame, and you have to make decisions that you might not make on that, so.
And then, so there's no rush. It can be thought through, and with this amount of money, it should be thought through. But this was just a place to start to have the conversation with the committee. And like I said, the first phase, the utility phase, it's going, we're getting it out there. We're starting 1st of August. So,
So a couple of comments. One is Cindy, I think that I like your idea. I think that piece of property is a tough one because it's off in the corner. But with your idea of switching things around and still keeping the cohesiveness of all those, of the bathroom and everything in the center, it actually probably provides it more access to what might be a better area for performances out in that. But the other piece is, she's right about that piece of property. And where the soccer fields are, we were able to go out and get $1 million grant for that. That's as high as the Oregon State Parks will award. And I think this is a great opportunity to at least come up with a partial funding. I think we need to get that piece of property because if it goes to twice its value here, we're never going to have it. And this is I think we need it to have a big enough space to make Cheetah Lake Park fully accessible and successful.
do you remember ballpark appraisal price on that? It was over 3, wasn't it? Was it close to 4? Okay, because we just had it appraised not too long ago, that piece. So,
Okay, let's take baby steps. Let's go.
we're gonna have to sell a lot of brownies
so.
for
Yeah.
that.
Let's, can we agree to before next meeting, take a look at this, think about it a little bit, come back, and let's talk about it. And then just whatever next steps. We have the opportunity to kind of help the city drive the process, because when you get to the community input point, they don't want to listen to Ron because he's a city employee, but they'll listen to that.
Yeah, they don't want to listen to anything we have to say, so that's good. That's okay.
Question?
What I would like is a full presentation of what's being proposed here and exactly why. Because I look at it and I have a million questions like, oh, okay, there's all this parking. How much do we have now? What's a dugout? What's a bullpen? There's a lot I don't know. So if somebody could just present it to us, it would be a lot easier to react to it. And then I think once this committee has approved the plan, the public should get the same presentation and should have an opportunity to react.
So you mentioned that you're wondering what kind of parking it has now. There's really, there's the gravel lots out here, but there's really no, and there's a gravel lot, but I guess that's the only parking there is. And the biggest thing, and one of the things that I know as the Strawberry Festival has come back to more times than one, is this park does not have a lot of area for parking. And so that, I think when this was drawn, they took out part of the grass where the pump house is. Are you really familiar? How familiar are you with actually this park?
I'm pretty familiar with it.
Okay, so where the pump house is now, when you drive in the driveway to the left, they're gonna have to include that in parking just to get some more parking out there. So I think that is is a concern that we need to consider is when you have a concert of even 5,000 people, you don't have the ability to park them. You don't have the ability for them to park somewhere. And that is an issue and something we need to be considering when we consider the use of this park. Because if you can't park the people, there's no use. So, and that's, I mean, for example, for the Strawberry Festival, we had 20,000 people there and it took the entire field next door to park them all. And you're just not always going to have that. So I
And it-
definitely think parking is something that needs to be considered.
That is where this group needs to come in and kind of make some decisions as to what is the park going to be used for? Because if we're just talking what we see here on paper, right? And you've got the field over next door, you can probably get away with Strawberry Festival. We'd figure out how to do that, you know. But if the committee and the community say, well, we want this to be a regional festival site or whatever that is, then you don't have enough parking. Is it worth purchasing more property to make parking? Those are some of the questions that we've kicked around a little bit. Do the parking, the piece next door, well, I'll call it next door, is that just a parking lot? I mean, does that just become a parking lot? You start doing the math on the numbers to that, and it's, so how do you,
Expensive parking.
exactly, how do you recoup that? Or maybe you don't recoup it. Maybe it's just a community asset that, you know, you don't recoup. I don't know. But we're trying to do a lot of things here.
Right, I agree with you.
And-
That's my concern.
And it feels like it could be, maybe there shouldn't be as many things, if I'm hearing the committee
Yeah,
right.
I think this committee needs to submit more, do a little presentation to the city saying, hey, this is what we think, than the other way around. I don't know how to say what this is. That's, you guys are great at this stuff. But for this, to me, as a city council person, this has to be self-sustaining. It can't be
Right.
more cost worthy. It can't
Right.
cost us more to have this. However we decide to use this property, it has to benefit the whole city and it has to be a profit center.
I agree.
almost.
Right.
So those are the things to look at when you do this. And I guess there probably needs to be some in-depth looking into what kind of revenue we could expect from baseball fields. What kind of revenue could we expect from a bigger stage that could host a 5,000 person event or vice versa? But we're not going to be able to put every aspect that everybody wants. out
Oh,
there.
yeah, no,
So it's
absolutely
kind of
not.
gotta, you kind of got to hone in on what is the park going to be? What is it going to be for? What's it going to be used for? It's going to be really hard to have that many multiple uses and be a real moneymaker, I guess.
Self-sustaining
Yes.
anyway.
Cindy,
Yeah.
you really have a visual conceptual of it. Could you cut and paste and bring something?
Oh, yeah, I can
Maybe?
cut and paste. Oh, yeah. I can cut and paste all you want.
Well, I can have Brian do some of that. If you want to see what that looks like over there on that side, taking the baseball field out, we can do that. I want to, before we get down the road of, you know, having somebody, because we got to pay him, right, to design. So is that the direction that the committee wants to go?
Right.
Do you want to see something more? You want to talk about it more before we give direction to them? And then you see that and you go, I don't really like that. I mean, some of that's going to happen anyway, but I would suggest maybe a little more thinking about it before we do
I
that.
wouldn't suggest spending a lot of time. Baseball, I coached JVO baseball in this town for a while. Baseball, I don't want to say it's fading, but I'm not sure we need 3 baseball fields. I don't know if that pencils. We've improved. Century Park's got a good field. Christopher Columbus has a good field. There's Bob Smith where they're all playing. I think this feels a little dated as far as what this is, but I understand it's a concept.
Yep.
But I think the whole top part there, the whole north part could maybe be better used than putting 2 baseball fields in any of that.
Right.
Any way you cut and paste them.
Right.
That's what we want to hear from the committee
Yeah.
before we go further, is, does it warrant any? Does this committee feel like it warrants any? I mean, that,
Mhm.
we can sit here all day long and go, well, you know, this is what the master plan said. Hey, we think this, we think that, but that's what we have this committee for, is to kind of guide those discussions. You guys are in tune with the public.
So I have a question, maybe Jason can answer. What's the revenue now that this park brings in to the city based on the events that are out there? I mean, I know there's events out there all the time. What kind of revenue does that generate?
I don't have the number.
He's looking over his left shoulder.
offhand.
Or Sierra, see if she knows, because Sierra's
I don't-
probably more likely
I
to
don't know
know.
if Sierra can pull it up right now. If not, we can get you guys the number.
I feel like we need to look at how much revenue this park has produced to date and what kind of events those were, and to help us guide us in a direction of knowing what the future is going to hold for it.
And has there ever been anybody ask if we have large baseball fields to host a tournament or anything like that?
I mean, they're popular. I will give you
Right.
that. They're
Oh, I
popular
know.
and they can, I think in order to be self-supporting, it probably would need to be something that was run all summer and spring long.
Mhm.
Well, and
It wouldn't be just one-offs here or there. I don't know how often Bob Smith runs tournaments anymore. I don't know.
I believe we get 2, possibly 3 big tournaments this summer,
Not like it
but
used
it's not a ton.
So that's not going to be self-sustaining,
Right.
right?
plus, I don't know what the upkeep is on a baseball field to really truly keep it.
Well, these would probably be most likely turf fields, but then you got to
Still be,
factor in.
yeah, there
Yeah,
still be
there's-
some
There's
upkeep.
maintenance, but
um,
then there's replacement.
Yeah.
To think about too.
So just to keep moving, let's plan on.
It's
on
really
the
trying
six-
hard to kick us off this
Is
one.
everybody planning on being here available at the next meeting? Because I think it's important that we have.
I will not be at
all
the
of us.
August meeting.
Okay, so let's put on our September agenda, since time isn't a big issue,
Okay.
because I might not be too.
I won't be here September, but that's okay.
Okay,
That's fine.
you sure?
Possible.
Let's put on our agenda 1 or 2 down to really discuss, that keeping in mind it needs to be self-sustaining, and bring revenue, and we're talking 20 years. We got to think 20 years out, which is hard to do. And we need to look at what the community needs and what the community wants, which can be the same and they can be different as well. So,
And while maintaining the intent of the grant,
and maintaining the intent of the grant.
which access. So keep that in mind.
So I'll also be gone in September.
Okay, so we'll put it on the October agenda.
Or
I think, again, let's take the time and do it right, because it's got to go a bunch of steps. And I would
This is
just,
not going to be solved in one meeting anyway.
no,
I think we could
mean,
talk about it in September and
We
then,
can talk about it in stages and
yeah.
okay, we can do that.
Feels
Whatever,
like-
whatever works. I think it's a conversation. It actually gives us something to have some meat and some input to get it started, and to go through, once it's to a point, go through the public process. Because, I think that's an important piece. Once the council's okay with it, with the, conceptual, the public process is very important, and
see
not
how
getting.
well our plan survives the public.
Well, yeah, and everybody's going to have an idea,
See how few people we can make mad.
But I've seen Lebanon make really good decisions over time. So I think that there's some good decisions can be made there. Okay, can we move on to the next thing?
Yep.
That's my whole job, is to keep us moving, so. Trails master plan and parks master plan update. I think we checked that one off
I
already.
think we're good.
BLT update. Is that you, Rod?
that's me, and with Jan's help. But a couple of things. One is, I think we're going to go ahead and I'm going to cover a little bit more of the need for the parks and trees master plan as we go through the next discussions that I have on here. But I might just start by asking for a quick update on the Beaton Lane project. Build Lebanon Trails is pledged $20,000 for the project, and I think that it was held up because the materials weren't accessible.
So I just got an update on that today. There's a development going in, or planning, they're in the planning stages out there. And it'd be possible, there's a possibility they may have to put a sewer line in down Beaton Lane. So we don't want to widen it out and then them come tear it up in a couple months. So it's on hold for a little bit until we get more of an idea. We're doing some investigating into the sewer issues out there and if we already have a line or if they're gonna have to put one in, so. And Ron might have a little more idea on the timeline on that.
Yeah, we're still working with them on that piece of it.
So-
We do have it budgeted, it's set aside, we've got the materials. It's just a matter of figuring out what's gonna happen here with this, until we know, so.
Okay, well, the BLT funds are available when you get her done, or
Yeah,
you're in
no,
the process
and
for the
I
invoice.
should have let you know on that. I apologize, Rod.
It's okay, I was
It
just
seems like
asking.
everything we do right now, it's constantly changing because everything is changing.
Yeah, understandable.
It's like being in a washing machine.
Yeah.
An understatement.
So a couple of items Ron wanted me to bring up. One is the Gills Landing project, and the city and Bill Lebanon Trails are partnering to make a safe, fully accessible crossing across a boat ramp parking area that has no real pedestrian access across it. So as we know, we're building this long trail system that's going to go all the way from the north of town to the south of town, and this is a spot that needs some improvement. So Bill Lemon Trails has committed significant funds to the project, and after talking to some board members today, it's $50,000 available and $50,000 pending. And I'm applying for grants. So far, I've started 4 different grants, and the grants I'm looking at for the funding to help fund this project are of Civic Power Foundation, Travel Oregon, T-Mobile, Oregon Community Foundation, and Ford Family Foundation. So it's quite a package, and it gets more complicated the more efforts you put through it. Along with some of that funding, is it possible for SDCs next year, out of the next year's budget, unknown currently. And so for construction in 2024, what I'm really looking for is support of an acknowledgement from the Parks Committee, Trees and Trails Committee, that this is a needed project. And before Build Lemon Trails spends $18,000, which is that's a different project. I'll get to that one. But before we move too much forward without consulting you, I wanted to bring it to you and see what you thought. Had any questions about the project? And Ron, can you add?
So I asked Rod to bring this to the committee, several reasons. One, I believe the committee should be involved in the decision-making on when we apply for grants. In most cases, it doesn't require a council action because there's no resolution needed. In this case, I think if the committee agrees to that, one of the things that Rod and I talked about was the use of parks system development charges next year. We have all of our parks system development charges budgeted for and spoken for this year. I was clear that we could not commit to next year because 1, I don't know how much we're going to have, and 2, it needs to go through the budget committee. So with that, I think Rod's looking for other alternatives through that and potentially using Parks SDCs next year, but only based on whether it can be through the budget or not. The other thing the committee needs to keep in mind, you've got, I'll call it competing interests again. You've got the big Chile Lake Park project, which we could use SDCs based on the matches, and then you've got trails. So there's going to need to be a road to weave so that we as staff that we're adhering to the wishes of this committee, I guess is the best way to put it.
And I think we can, I think we can get enough funding.
Okay.
I mean, it's looking good for funding. We qualify for these, well, for most of these, not all of them yet, but, and if we can get 2 or 3 of them, 1 or 2 of them will pay the whole amount we need, but then I think we can fund it. And before we can start with construction, we have to have a funding package figured out. So that's what we're doing. And probably won't know for till November, maybe December, and possibly into the spring. I think one of the grants doesn't announce until April, but most of them announce before that.
Did you need total? Remind me how much money you needed total?
We need 208, I think
11.
211,000. I think the last estimate was just over 200,000.
And
Yeah,
that
that was
pays
actually-
for exactly what?
What's it paid for?
Yeah, what's that?
It's
211?
we have to establish, we have to do excavation.
Which trail, remind me which part, where the trail starts? and
So
ends?
we have the Old Mill Trail and River Park, but between those two.
Okay.
And so it goes all the way across Gill's Landing. Currently, there's a really in poor shape asphalt trail that needs to be replaced that goes from the parking lot over underneath the trestle.
Okay,
And we realign all of that. We were able to basically put a trail right down the center of the parking area and make it so pedestrians have a kind of a right of way. Right now, they're competing with all the boat trailers and traffic, and it's just not the safest thing in the world.
okay. I just want to make sure I understood where you're putting it.
Sure.
So
So
what are you needing from the committee today? Anything, or just letting us know that you're working on it?
it'd be great to just have a vote of support. I don't think we have to do too much. Ron, what do you think? What do we?
Well, I think if the committee makes a motion to move forward on the grants, that's fine. Because we're not tying up any city resources in this. So
So,
I think that's, I mean, I shouldn't say that. I think we're going to do the excavation internally and some of that. So no hard dollars, be soft costs. So basically just a motion to allow Rod to go through and apply for the grants that he's applying for.
so I would make a motion that this committee allows Rod to, or encourages Rod to move forward and apply for the grants needed to make this project happen.
I second.
Any conversation? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Rod,
what,
do you need a letter of support? Would that be helpful?
It would be very helpful, yeah, very helpful. And there's only one of those grants so far that's asking for letters of support, but it's a short turnaround on that one. So Jan wrote me one, and I wrote one for BLT.
But
So,
I mean, from this committee.
yeah, that'd be great. How do we do that?
so let us know when you need one, and I can write one, and we can, or somebody can write one, and we can look at it and say, yeah, we're all good with that. Lyndon, oh, that would be much better.
I was going to write one for myself, but I
Okay.
thought there should be one written for the committee.
That'd be excellent. And in the next 2 weeks?
Just email, I can do one, just email me what you need, and we'll
that'd be
make
great.
that, and then I'll send it back to the committee, make sure that you guys are okay with it.
Coming
sign
from
it
the
and send it on
chair,
its
that
way.
would be wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What else you got on BLT update?
All right, well, there's a really exciting opportunity that Build Lebanon Trails has been presented with, and I wanted to show you in the Trails Master Plan a trail segment that is crucial to connecting our community from north to south. And it runs from, so you all, I think you all know that there's a grant that we received for construction next year to extend the West River Trail north of, kind of downstream from River Park. And so that's going to get built. Now, this section that we have an opportunity to try to secure is from River Park all the way to Bromille Street. So there's a map called Trail Number 4, which is the aerial, and again, it's in the back of the Trails Master Plan, about 20 pages or so.
And, oh, can Erin, does she have a copy of the packet? Can you guys get to that up on, because I think there's a few people that don't have that Trails Master Plan in front of me being
Oh.
one.
Would you like my copy?
I know where it's at, so
Well,
I don't think
Actually-
Counselor Workman has his with him, so.
in the packet,
I wasn't awarded one of those.
No,
things.
we'll have to- we'll have
so,
to-
but
we'll have to
in,
get you
She's
one.
working on it. She's
Yeah.
working on it. She told me.
in the packet, there's the trails map, and you can see it in there too.
Yeah.
So if you look at
She's
that.
gonna, I believe the master plan was attached to the agenda this time, so she's gonna pull it up on the screen for us.
Great. So I'll save time. I'm going to just keep talking about this. So There's very few trails left that we need to connect all the way into Hattervine Park, and the city has got a proposal to build the trail from Hattervine Park to the Dr. Thad Nelson Trail in the next few years. That means with this one project and a couple more that once we secure the right-of-way here, that we can start on the other right-of-ways, we're going to have that connection. So the dream of a trail system that goes all the way from the north of town, all the way to the south of town, on off-road, not using sidewalks, and I'm considering the 12-foot wide sidewalks, not sidewalks, or a trail that do go along a few roads, but that's a reality, and that's a reality in the next few years. So so what I'm looking for, again, from the committee, the Build Lebanon Trails has got together and decided that what we need is to hire a surveyor and to go out and survey this area. It's several properties, and to do due diligence before we decide to move forward on securing that right of way. And we have the property owner's permission to do this, we're going to go out and survey and see what we got. Well, it's $18,000. So it's not just a drop in a bucket. It's some big money. And before we spend that money, we want the Parks and Trees and Trails Committee to make a motion to support that effort. And we can easily just base it off of what's in the Parks Master or the Trails Master Plan. And in here, it's described as Trail number 4, Section 2. There's no page numbers in the back of the Trails Master Plan. They're just where all the aerial photographs are.
West River Trail Section 1, Rod, isn't it?
The written description's on page 73, but it's not nearly as nice as the pretty picture.
Yeah, you said Trail 4, Section 3 is what I was looking at.
Is it section 2 or section 3?
It's Section 2, Trail number 4, Section 2. And Section 3, you can see where the river park is. And if you look along the river, you'll see the Albany property that the city of Lebanon just purchased, where we're building the extension of the West River Trail, which also includes a loop trail all the way around River Park to make a 3,600-foot long, fully accessible trail loop all the way around the park.
Okay, that map makes more sense.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out.
So it's quite long. It goes all the way from the hard surface Santiam Street, Bro Mill Street area, all the way to the recently purchased City of Albany property.
So so Build Lebanon Trails is just looking for a recommendation from us in support of getting the survey done and getting that far.
In support of the project as being outlined in the master plan. Yeah.
Does the city have any concerns on that?
No, we've met with Build Lebanon Trails on this segment, and again, I recommend Rod bring this back to the committee. The only thing would be ownership. So the way that it's working, it would be dedicated to Build Lebanon Trails, and we still haven't worked through when would it be turned over to the city portion. So at this point, it's just them going out and acquiring this segment for a future trail is really what it's for the master plan.
Okay.
But again, this committee probably needs to weigh in on that.
Is there any discussion before we would do a motion on that? Any questions?
You're saying that all this property, turn my thing on, all this property that you're proposing, you're surveying is privately owned by different property owners? Is that what I'm hearing?
It's one
I'm
property
trying to be
owner.
careful what I say. It's privately owned.
Okay.
So, and there's several properties that haven't been properly surveyed probably ever. And this section of trail was the old, it was the water that fed the mill at LBCC. There's that mill there. Originally, it was a mill race. And it's an abandoned area that
So it's multiple properties under one ownership. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep.
Okay.
And so the stipulations that we kind of gave as staff were, we need to, have it surveyed to make sure that it's real property, because it is kind of some strange tax lots. And then 2, ensure that we can actually build a trail on it before we would think about taking ownership of it, if that makes sense. Closer.
Trail
No.
4.
Section 3, go to section 2.
It's the
No, that's
different-
West River Trail.
That's West River.
We're in the wrong section. Section 1, go one more. Nope.
You got to go farther down in the book by about 5 pages.
What's that?
Yep, let's go back. You passed it.
Section 2.
Keep going.
Section 2 is between Gills Landing.
Keep going back. I think you passed it there.
That looks like the right
That's
stuff.
going
That's
the other
West
way.
River Trail.
It's section 1.
Trail 4, section 2.
Yeah.
There's no name on it. It just says,
There must be more than one then.
And the section 1 goes along Woods Trailer Park and is not the one we're looking at.
Look, really confusing, but kind of glad I don't have-
trying to figure out where you guys are, but
Oh, back up.
Can I help you find it?
No, I've got it. I was trying to help them.
No, never mind.
Go down more, you're getting there.
There you go.
2, 3, 4.
4, 1.
one
there
more,
you
one more
go.
time. There you go.
Get more.
Hey, we made it.
Get more.
And it's kind of cryptic on how you have to read it, so that's okay.
Okay, any other discussion on this? Do we want to make a recommendation or a motion?
I feel like if the city is on board with this, then I think it's fine that we make a motion that BLT moves forward on getting it surveyed and seeing what comes of it.
Was that your motion?
Yes, that's. my motion.
Okay.
I make a motion that BLT moves forward and has it surveyed and sees what comes of it,
There you
what
go.
they can come of that property.
You kind of make them up as you go sometimes,
That's-
yeah. Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say A or I or whatever. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, anything else on BLT? We're getting down there. I want to end by 3:30.
Jan, you have anything to add?
No, we're still doing graffiti. Job security.
And they're still providing graffiti for you, yeah.
You can skip
I've seen
off that.
Skip's work, yeah, around town. Okay, we have public comments. Don't see anybody. Anything else from the committee?
I have a question. Is there a schedule for putting in play equipment at Porter Park?
At which one?
I don't believe we have anything on our schedule
No,
coming up anytime
there was
soon.
never, it was never part of that park design, as far as I know.
Well, there's a area that looks like it started to be prepared for play equipment, but then it was abandoned. So I don't know what else it would be.
I believe it was for future play equipment, but I don't believe there
Okay.
was ever anything in funding or,
So do we need
budgeting
to
for
look
that.
for a grant for that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility, absolutely,
it's always a possibility.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else? Okay, our next scheduled meeting is August 16th, 2 o'clock right here, and we made it by 3:20.
We need to have a
Ooh.
meeting,
So close.
Oh, we were so close.
That gavel was in the air.
so,
Do we want to wait till September?
so
Is that what you're saying?
is there a need for a meeting in August?
Well, it's my birthday, but.
See,
We
it
can
sounds
have a
like
party.
some folks are gonna be gone. And secondly, if we do the September, is that, would you like me to have Udell Engineering here? Or do we want to just talk about that as a committee first and then bring them in?
we should talk about it as a
Yeah,
committee
I agree.
first.
So are you set on an August meeting? Can we go to September for the next one? It is harder to meet in summer. A couple of people are gone. You're gone in September.
You're going to September and August? Are you going August and September meeting? August.
Preferences? I mean, I would suggest we wait till September, but,
Not that I can't, but I'm 4 blocks away. I can be here anytime.
It doesn't matter to me one way or the other.
okay. You want to take a break in August and go for September? September, I see the city staff going, yes.
If we do that, where are we going to meet you for your birthday?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't count them so much anymore, so. Okay,
I can't
anything
count
else
'em.
before I hit the gavel? Hit it. You sure, Ron? Hit it. Okay, we're adjourned. He's good, man.